Welcome to another exciting ceramic video. So today we're going to start our slab drawings. So to do a slab Sgraffito drawing, you need to begin with a layer of slip. The white slip on top of the red clay is going to help create contrast for the picture. So you have your containers of slip, a brush, and I like to keep my slab on a wear board. I'm going to start painting the slip in one direction, so I'm going to go left to right. You might notice some of the slip picks up the clay and it might make the white look a little pink. That's why we're going to do many layers. So I'd go ahead and cover most of it because you're not sure what you're cutting away yet, because you haven't put your design on it. And I'm just going left to right, loading up my brush each time, some nice broad strokes. And then without loading my brush up, I'm going to go run back up and spread that slip around. I don't want to put too much on at a time. I want to do nice, even, medium to thin coats at first. So this is one coat, and I need to let this dry before I come to the next coat. So you can use a hair dryer on a cool setting, or a fan, or do this near an open window with some breeze, and it'll be a little quicker, but it's going to take a couple minutes. So I'm going to put my brush down, and I'm going to take a little break. Now that my first layer has started to dry, it gets a little dark and tackier. It's not soaking wet anymore. It's not shiny. I'm going to put my second layer on. I'm going to load up my brush with some slip, and I'm going to go from top to bottom. The first time I went left to right. Once the whole piece is covered again, I don't need to load up my brush anymore. I'm just going to spread out the slip that's here. Just like this. There still might be a couple streaks. Don't worry, there's 2 more coats coming. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to let this coat dry before I put my next coat on. Okay, now I've finished left to right, top to bottom, and now I'm going to go diagonally. So I'm going to start at the top left corner and paint down towards the bottom right. So I'm going to load my brush up. Starting at the top corner. And then once I have my slip on the slab, I'm just going to give one last brush to even out the coat. And I'm pressing pretty light with my brush. I'm not really digging in. I'm letting the slip do a nice skim coat on top. And that was my diagonal coat. I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to do my final coat. All right, I'm working on my 4th layer now. So I've gone left to right, top to bottom, diagonally from the top left to the bottom right. Now I'm going to go from the top right to the bottom left. The reason I'm going a different direction every time is because I'm building up these layers of clay so that they stick to each other, almost kind of like I'm weaving them together. So I want to make sure I go in a different direction each time. Once again, I load up my brush, and once I have a lot of slip on there, I lightly spread all the slip out. And at this point, there should be no more streaks. You should not be seeing any red clay come through. There should be a nice consistent surface. If you see some clay popping through, I would let this dry again and maybe do one more left to right. A couple tips. You're going to be working on 3 of these at the same time. I only worked on 1. So it might be nice to have them in a little assembly line and work your way down, and then the first one might be a little dry, and you can go back down and keep working. You're going to have a wear board. You're going to have your canvas. You want to eventually cover these up. This has to be completely dry before you cover it in plastic. If you put plastic on now, it'll stick to it and it'll get all over the place. You want the clay to become leather hard. You don't want it to be too soft, and you don't want it to dry out too much. You want to keep it wet enough to carve into. So make sure you're covering it, or you're keeping one of your slabs or two of your slabs in your bin. You don't want these to dry out completely while you're working on the project. So you should definitely, it should take 1 or 2 classes, definitely at least 1, maybe 2 to get all these layers on nice. And then I'll show you the next step in the next video. Have fun.